The hacking scandal surrounding Rupert Murdoch's tabloid newspaper in London is deepening. CBS News correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is in our London bureau with the very latest. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning, Russ. Well, there are fresh revelations this morning. Sky News is reporting that the premises of the News of the World are about to be designated a crime scene. And the Guardian newspaper says, or at least alleges, that millions of emails may have been deleted from the company accounts, emails that would have been crucial to a police investigation. We do know that since yesterday noon, 3 people have been arrested. Clive Goodman, once the paper's royal editor, another man believed to be a private investigator, and Andy Coulson, a former editor who became the British Prime Minister's press advisor. He was allowed to go home again after questioning.
There's an awful lot I'd like to say, but I can't. I'm not.
The News of the World's owner, media magnate Rupert Murdoch, who also controls Fox News and the Wall Street Journal, will arrive in London today to take charge personally of the damage control. His British CEO, Rebekah Brooks, who was editor of the News of the World at the time of the alleged hacking, has not been arrested. She spoke to the soon-to-be unemployed staff at the News of the World on Friday and hinted there was more dirt to come.
Eventually, it will come out why things went wrong and who was responsible, and that will be another very, very difficult moment in this company's history.
Back in 2005, Prince William's aides realized that the News of the World must have learned some personal details by hacking into his voicemails. Slowly, it emerged that other celebrities had been hit, but the larger investigation stalled. Yesterday, Britain's Prime Minister said it wasn't just foot-dragging by the police.
The truth is, to coin a phrase, we've all been in this together. The press, politicians, and leaders of all parties, yes, including me.
While the News of the World will print its last edition tomorrow, the fallout from this affair has just begun. On the business side, a multi-billion-dollar takeover bid by the Murdoch family of a huge satellite television operation here in Britain has already been delayed, and it could be in serious trouble. Russ?
Elizabeth Palmer in London. Thank you. And joining us from London is Steve Hewlett, a media consultant and broadcaster, and Mark Lewis, the lawyer for the family of 13-year-old Millie Dowler, whose phone was hacked after her murder, an incident that ignited the scandal. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Mark, I'll begin with you. Obviously, nothing is going to bring back their little girl, but is the Dowler family getting any satisfaction by the fact that News of the World is closing?
Well, there's not really satisfaction, and in fact it was cruelty upon cruelty that the announcement that the News of the World was seizing, that without them being warned about this, they tended to think that, or they did think that that somehow they would never get to the truth, that there would be attempts to close the paper. Put their minds at rest about that, but nowhere has anybody bothered to think about the effect on the victims, and particularly on the Dowler family.
What would the Dowler family, Mark, like to see during this investigation?
Well, they want to get to the truth of the whole thing. They want to know what happened and who did it, what they did. You see, what happens with the voicemail is that the voicemail box becomes full. So when Millie Dowler went missing, people were phoning up, family and friends, leaving messages, please phone home, please phone us. And of course the mother and the father and friends were phoning up, and the voicemail was full, and the message was, sorry, you can't leave a message anymore. And then there was a moment that you could suddenly leave a message. Mm-hmm. So the parents, the families, friends were thinking, Millie must be alive, and that wasn't true. And that was the ultimate cruelty.
I see. Steve Hewlett, let me bring you in. Of course, as we heard, the situation is hit very close to British Prime Minister David Cameron. What do you think? Potentially, how damaging could this be to his government?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's worth reflecting the fact that they had an emergency debate in the Commons about this on Wednesday, and it was said by a number of commentators, that for the first time in 30 years, the British political establishment was standing up to Rupert Murdoch. So there's been a definite, decisive, proper shift in the balance between the various forces at play here. For David Cameron personally, the fact that he hired, a former News of the World editor, Andy Coulson, who was arrested yesterday morning, in knowledge of, because the Guardian newspaper that's broken most of this story, had approached Cameron's aides and said, look, be very careful before you hire him because he's in this up to his neck. That having hired him in those circumstances leaves David Cameron, at best, looking as if he made a misjudgment, at worst, actually looking like he's way too close to the Murdoch empire.
I see. Let me ask you this. Of course, no allegations have been made against Rupert Murdoch's American operations. I'm talking about the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, and the New York Post. But what do you think? Could there be repercussions on this side of the pond from what's happening over there?
Well, I mean, isn't it always the way? And you know, you're the experts with Watergate. You know, the cover-up's usually worse than the crime. Now, what went on here is absolutely scandalous, but it was 5 and in some cases 10 years ago, and there's no question it shouldn't have happened. But the thing that's really toxic for News International and therefore for News Corporation is the way they've handled it. Of course, it extends over there, primarily not because of what happened. There's no suggestion that this sort of thing would happen over there in these newspapers. Not a hint of it. The reason it finds its way over there is because of the way the company have handled it. They denied it, they covered it up, they put their hands up, and now everyone is paying catch-up.
We are going to have to end it right there. Steve Hewlett and Mark Lewis joining us from London. We thank you both very much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.